Alright, today we're going to go over a couple summer citrus kings. Are they similar or are they not so similar? Dior Homme Cologne versus Givenchy Gentleman Cologne. Are they similar besides the fact that they're both called cologne? We're going to find that out today. Of course, you guys know I love my summer citrus fragrances, those really light, bright, citrusy scents for summertime, being that it does get pretty hot and humid here. Typically, it can be hard to reach for fragrances in that type of weather, but these are two of them that I will find myself reaching for when I'm not even really in the mood to wear one because of how hot it is. So I want to compare the two. They both are kind of in different price points here. We have Dior Homme Cologne, which depending on where you get it and what the price is doing on discounters, could be ranging anywhere from like $80 to $100, somewhere in that range. Again, it changes daily, so it's hard to predict for sure. Givenchy Gentleman Cologne, when in stock, because sometimes it's out of stock quite a bit, it can be around $45 to maybe $50 or so. Again, depending on the pricing and what it's doing, and if you can find it in stock. So we do have a bit of a difference here. Is it a huge difference? No, it's not like you're going from $20 to $80 to $100 here. So if you are kind of in that $50 price range of the Givenchy, some of you may be able to stretch and get Dior Homme Cologne in that higher price point, just depending on what your budget is and which scent you like better. So for this video, I'm not really going to be referencing price because, again, I don't think that's really a good way to justify which fragrance you should pick here in this situation. They're both different smelling, but I do want to compare them just to kind of help you make a decision. So let's break it down and make it pretty simple here. Dior Homme Cologne is going to be the more simplistic version of the two. When you hear people talk about this one, primarily what you'll hear is that it smells like iced cold lemonade. And do I agree with that comparison? Yes, I do. To me, it smells like you're sitting out on your porch, you have a nice cold pitcher of this nice sweetened fresh lemonade sitting there, and you're just enjoying the weather. It's a beautiful morning, the sun is out, and it's a great day. That's the picture that Dior Homme Cologne paints in my head. It really does do that when I smell it. So, that's just kind of what it does for me. On the other hand, Givenchy Gentleman Cologne, while this one is still light, bright, and fresh, it has a bit more going on. It's got a bit more depth to it. It's got like petitgrain, and it also has iris. And the iris is what makes this one interesting because, it's used in conjunction with a very fresh scent. Typically, when we're seeing iris, we're seeing it in stuff like Dior Homme Intense, Valentino Uomo Intense, Prada L'Homme, the original Dior Homme. Just about all those fragrances have a little bit more of a sweeter touch or a bit of a soapy touch, right? They aren't really necessarily fresh. Prada L'Homme will be kind of the exception here, as that one does go more fresh, but it also has a bit of a soapiness and just a bit more depth to it. Givenchy Gentleman Cologne, to my knowledge, is really one of the only fragrances out there that is very primarily fresh and citrusy while also utilizing the iris. Now, that may scare you away if you're someone who doesn't have really experience with iris, or you hear about it and you think lipstick immediately, like lipstick makeup bag. You may be put off by this. I can tell you that the iris used in Gentleman Cologne is a bright and fresh iris. It's not something that's going to be powdery or lipsticky or smells like makeup or anything like that, like you may equate with something like Dior Homme Intense. It's got a freshness to it, but what that does is it really gives this composition a bit more substance, right? It has more substance to begin with compared to Dior Homme Cologne, but the iris really kind of takes it to that next level. And what I find is that overall it makes this one different. It really makes it stand out more so than a lot of the other summer fragrances out there, just because it's a different composition. It's a different smell altogether. It's not an ambroxan blue fragrance. It's not like a bergamot, grapefruit, musky scent. That's kind of a composition that is pretty common with men's fragrances, like bergamot, grapefruit, whatever, with a musky dry down and some woods, right? It's not that. It goes in a different direction, playing with some different notes here in a different combination, and that one makes this quite a bit more unique and different than a lot of the other stuff out there on the market. So you will find overall that Gentleman Cologne is going to be just a touch sweeter and just has a bit more depth. You'll also find that because of that, This one has better performance. You know, one of the main drawbacks with Dior Homme Cologne is that it doesn't have good performance, and that's true. Is it awful on my skin? To me, no. You know, some people claim getting like 2 to 3 hours. I get a bit longer than that, anywhere from 5 to maybe 6 hours, sometimes a bit longer, depending on the weather, depending on how my skin is that day. There's so much that goes into affecting a fragrance's performance that it's hard to say, but I don't get 1 to 2 hours and it's gone like some people claim, but I also don't get anything beast mode. From Gentleman Cologne, I'm getting on average about 7 to 8 hours with decent projection. So you will find that this one does have more substance and it does hold up a bit better than Dior Homme Cologne. But it's also hard to beat Dior Homme Cologne in just how it develops off your skin. It's got kind of this sparkling, semi-sweet, effervescent, bright thing going on when you're wearing it outdoors in the heat and it's kind of developing off your skin. It's truly, honestly, kind of a magical fragrance. It's one that really develops and smells amazing. Honestly, really may blow you away, even though it is very simplistic and, you know, some people may think it's boring or just kind of uninspired because there's not a whole lot going on. There's something about just the quality, the notes they decide to use, how good the ingredients are, and just how they're all blended that really makes this fragrance stand out. So overall, you know, if you were kind of on the fence between these two and you're thinking, okay, which one should I pick? Which one's better? Which one is not as good? That's going to be one of those situations where you need to kind of think, okay, what do I prioritize? If you prioritize performance, go for this one, Gentleman Cologne. That's the simplest way to put it. This one's going to beat it in performance. If you prioritize something that's going to work really, really good for super hot days, while you could go with both of these or either of these because they both would work for really hot days, to play it safe, you know, for those super, super hot days, it's going to be Dior Homme Cologne every time, right? Again, Gentleman will work, but it does have a little bit of that sweetness when you spray it on normally, that when it gets warmer outside, that sweetness will be amplified. So that's something you got to keep in mind here. You may smell and think, oh, it's not that sweet right now, it's very fresh, but get it outside when it's almost 100 degrees and the sun's beating down, it's going to project more, it's going to develop more, it's going to get a lot more sweet. Again, the downside to Dior Homme Cologne for you may be the performance, it may be the fact that it's more expensive, but again, these are quite different scents. They don't really smell the same, they just kind of can have similar uses. So it's really going to be up to you to decide which one you like better. Gun to my head, if I had to pick my favorite, it's still going to be Dior Homme Cologne just because it's something that has stuck with me. I've got great memories with it. I still love how it smells and develops, but there's no denying that Gentleman Cologne is one of the best summer releases here within the past few years. It's a great, great scent that definitely deserves more recognition than it gets. So it's going to be up to you. Whichever one you like the smell of better, honestly, should be the one that you pick. Are they both blind buy safe? 100% yes. It's really going to be hard to dislike these. The safer of the two will be Dior Homme Cologne because it doesn't have any iris in here that still may put some of you off. And again, it just smells like citrus and musk. It's hard to dislike that. Gentleman Cologne has that like petty grain, a bit of like an herbalness almost, and just that citrus that some people may not be a fan of. So blind buy both of these, I would say, yeah, you probably could for most of you, but definitely the blind buy safe one is going to be Dior Homme Cologne. So I'm going to go and start to wrap this one up, guys. Again, this is kind of a tricky one because they don't really smell the same. They just have similar uses. So what I did was I gave you my breakdown of each. Dior Homme Cologne, fresher, brighter, less depth, less performance. Gentleman Cologne, more depth, better performance, but also it's just a bit sweeter and heavier. So depending on, you know, what your climate is, what you're going to be using it for, you're going to have to make that decision for yourself. Both are 100% winners. It would not be redundant to own both of them. So if you end up liking one, you could get the other, and there you go. You have both of them, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. That's, you know, I'm glad I did that because I love them both. I wear them both, you know, each for different situations. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Let me know down below which of those two fragrances you would pick if you were deciding to purchase one. Thank you so much for watching. I will link both of these down below to discounters so you can pick them up there and save yourself some money. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow night with another one. Take care.